Aloha, my name is Anna Covert, and I'm coming to you from my battleship here on the beautiful island of Oahu. This week on the Covert Code, the topic is scaling success in e-commerce, and I'm pleased to introduce Neil Twa, CEO and co-founder of Voltage Holdings. With over 17 years of experience, Neil has helped countless brands turn their success into double digits, with over 1,000 successful entrepreneurs specifically focused on Amazon and their networks. With e-commerce being one of the most important things right now as we enter the holiday season, very excited to have him here to share his success with all of you, as well as his new book, which was co-authored with Reed Larson, titled Almost Automated Income with FBA. Thanks for being here, Neil.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So to get the party started, can you share a little bit about your personal journey and mission behind Voltage Holdings?
Yeah, I'm in 17 years into business. I fired the man in 2007. And that was a fun adventure. I didn't expect, the first year to probably go the way it does, as many people wonder if they jump out of a career or corporate or something and, get into their own business. We, of course, want that very utopic, 7-figure first year and everything's great and, this race to the top. It doesn't always happen that way. Certainly didn't in my first year. I did learn not to burn the bridges, which was great because about a year later, I made my first consulting opportunity through a subcontract back with IBM, which is where I came out of in the corporate world before I started my own firm and started up a management consultancy firm. And that led to some really great things. The first 3 years, I did it myself, and that was kind of troublesome because I didn't know as much as I should have known about building my own company, running my own company, and going through all the paces of it. You have a corporate blanket, you think some things are safe, and so I realized that I didn't know what I didn't know, so I hired a mentor. And the one thing he pounded into me was sales fixes everything. Because I really wasn't selling anything more than my house, and I was just trading time for money and a nicer castle, but I was still running the same problem I was running when I was an employee, with just more problems. And so he pushed me. And so the next year, by that point, I had like 10 management consultants underneath me delivering projects and stuff. And so the risk and leveled up and actually just spent more time learning about the practical fundamentals of business in an operational capacity, which is a big learning curve if you've never done it before. So I executed imperfectly, which led me to both opportunities and failures in that process. I learned how to do my own digital marketing more and more as I spent a lot of time, getting online and learning how to market. Actually discovered I was very good at the affiliate marketing and paid media side, so much so that I was making more money doing that and less time. So I ended up shutting down the management consulting side and just focused on the lead generation side, no employees. And with that, I realized as I was doing well and the opportunities grew, I didn't own the end of the offer. I owned the front end, the consulting and the lead and the generation part, but I didn't actually own the back end, the actual offer. And so somebody could change the offer and mess around with me, which was annoying.
Hmm.
And so you get something going really well, and then they change something, and I had no control over it. And I kind of got to realize as I was getting into the larger end of business that I needed to have full control. And what I also realized was I didn't want to do just a purely digital product. I wanted to, maybe it's because I'm, Gen X, I don't know what, but I wanted the physical product component of it as opposed to just a pure digital product. And this is back before Meta even had their Facebook ad systems and stuff. And we were uploading, stuff in spreadsheets that would be sent out into systems. And I was doing a lot of mobile marketing at that point because that was becoming a very successful venture. And, didn't have the web interfaces and point and click and all that stuff. So we were doing it on a Hail Mary, which was a lot of fun. And, troublesome because you would throw $500 at a campaign and wonder, did it work?
Right.
And you'd
You
have
still, you still wonder, right?
well, yeah, you do, but you can actually pause it at $200. We couldn't. Once you threw the 500, it was gone. It was all risk.
True.
It was out there to see what would happen, or more and more as you went. And so I got into the question about how to do physical products. How do you deliver them? How do you make them? How do you manufacture them? How do you do the last mile to the customer and all this stuff? And there weren't a lot of 3PLs like there are now. There wasn't a lot of warehouse and logistics facilities. So it had turned out, as I discovered and was going through that process into 2012, Amazon had bought their Fulfilled by Amazon system, which was basically a logistics company, and they rebranded it, right? Because they were doing great with books, and then they said, hey, let's sell more products. And Bezos was like, let's sell all things to all people in 30 seconds or less. And so they literally took that to heart and developed a huge infrastructure of logistics and supply chain, which happens to be the sixth largest supply chain company in the world, which is quite amazing that darn thing even works. But so as we went in there and started to look at products and whatnot and flip some products, I had a friend that said, hey, you really, get into Amazon, get into FBA, figure out what they do, and really learn that model. And so, knowing that it was traffic and lead generation, it was people buying products. That's what I was, really interested in because I had become more of a direct to consumer marketer. I really didn't know a whole lot about the product side. I had a mutual friend introduce me to Reed Larson, who's my partner now, has been my partner for the last almost 12 years. And the guy knew more about the manufacturing lead and physical product business than I did. And so we're like, hey, if you handle the marketing and you handle the customer acquisition and you handle the front end, I'll work on the numbers and the physical and the manufacturing side. And I'm like, okay, we can do that. Two halves of a brain will make one whole brain, right?
Mhm.
And so we went out and he managed to pull together from his relationship a supplement line that was an overrun from another company. And they're like, hey, we just need to get rid of these 500 bottles. You just make an offer and you can have it and label it whatever you want and sell it. And it was this fat burner product. And it was our first product in the market. And we got it for like 50 cents on the bottle. We
A
could,
little fentanyl. Just kidding.
yeah, it wasn't anything like that. It
So,
was
what was it called? What was that one?
nothing crazy like that. Totally legal, totally within the terms of service and a legitimate manufacturer. Actually, the company that makes all of the Kirtland brand for Costco.
Nice.
And so we had that connection. We're like, okay, let's I don't know, we're gonna go into the supplement business. So that was our first product. And turns out we did pretty well with it. And we had it branded and we started to sell more of that product and order more of the product for ourselves and got to figuring that this could actually turn into a real opportunity. And by 2014 or so, we hit our first seven figures in business on Amazon. And from there, it was just about systemizing and standardizing the process of operations to grow more brands. We flipped some additional products like a lot of people do when they first get on the wholesale and retail, the shop your way to wealth stuff. We found some products where we would just buy out their inventory at a discount and we'd flip it on Amazon to see if we could sell it. In one instance, we pissed off the brand owner because we were selling more product than they were on their own listings on Amazon and they wouldn't give us a wholesale deal. So they just shut us off. Really, really narrow minded. If they'd let us go, we would have sold a whole lot of their product. But as it was, that reinforced our need to build our own brand, build our own control, build our and manufacture our own products. And so we kept doing that. And we launched more and more. We launched pet products and kitchen products and home products and toys and games. And we just got really good at the launch process and the growth and the numbers. And of course, people started asking us, what the heck are you doing? How are you doing it? Would you show us? And when it took too much of our time to show them how to do it, we started charging people just to get them to stop bothering us. I know that sounds like a silly story, but at the end, we made a business out of helping people while also selling our own, products and goods, which we do to today. We own 8 different brands. We're acquisition mode now. We've gone from the business development to the business owners to now we're business investors with private equity going out and buying companies. We've got 3 under letter of intent right now that we hope to get signed and into the due diligence process. They're between 10 to 20 million a piece each business. We hope to have 5 of those acquired by the end of 2025. So as we're operating our own brands, teaching people and growing these companies and operators inside of them so that they can operate the companies, which is part of what we do at Voltage. We're also acquiring those companies and building them up. So for the last 10, 11 years, this is what we've been growing into as the private label branding on Amazon and TikTok and Shopify and everywhere you sell physical private label brands. That's been our predominant focus.
Wow, that's very exciting. Sorry, Matt. For her, oh, she thinks she's a miniature dachshund, but she thinks she's really big.
Do you think she's a big old, yeah.
That's it. So for our viewers and listeners, tell us, what is an Amazon FBA?
Yeah, fulfilled by Amazon. It just means in essence, Amazon's infrastructure, like when you get a product and you order it on your mobile phone and it shows up in 2 days, it just means they handle the logistics, the fulfillment, the warehousing, the return, the customer service. They created an automation system that we can leverage. So about 40% or more, actually it's closer to 60% now of all Amazon sales, 483 billion at last check, is third-party sellers like us. And so we simply use and leverage them. So I don't have to have a warehouse full of employees
Sure.
and I don't have to have trucks and all that infrastructure. I just focus on the branding, the product, and the customer experience for that product. And they focus on delivering it and moving it to the customer.
Right. So this was our topic here is about, email marketing really, or e-commerce and email marketing and scaling. So what part of your and now I'm assuming there's a lot of things have changed in Amazon since you started, right? You were right there at the beginning. And now with the Amazon DSP being opened and more accessible than ever, are you using it and how's it helping you scale faster?
I am not because we haven't had great experiences with it. So what we use predominantly is sponsored ads and sponsored brands,
Mhm.
which in combined with branded traffic inside of Amazon creates a really great scalable asset. Anything off Amazon we might do from influencer traffic, TikTok creation, Shopify, or ads off will flow back up to 30% of the time to Amazon. So we now consider Amazon a demand capture platform. So it is simply a spoke on the wheel of creating a holistic e-commerce business, and it is the back-end fulfillment for each of those channels. So once we get our products into Amazon FBA, they have their warehouse division and their AGL division that they created during the hyper growth of 2024. Those become our logistics channels for any other channel we operate under, and that includes email marketing, Shopify, TikTok shops, etc. That all kind of flows into each other. So we don't use that particular side of it. Just haven't had a lot of good results. Have had friends test it out who haven't had great results. That's just been my experience. So we do other, sponsored ads and sponsor brand type of campaigns. But it's important to mention in the growth of it, the advertising wing of Amazon is growing tremendously fast.
Yes.
So fast that by 2026, they predict that it will now be the most profitable component of Amazon,
Wow.
above their AWS services. So what that means is anybody listening to this, if you are interested in e-commerce or physical products or the movement or marketing of them, Amazon's going to become a Google-style analytic data management and advertising engine.
Well,
And
and you know what? I've actually been able to launch a couple. So the way that I'm doing it for this holiday, with of course, I do want to ask you some questions about Cyber Monday and some things. But before we get there, so with B2B audiences, right? How can you leverage? I mean, I do a lot of solars, or for instance, now what we're starting to see, and it's brand new, so I don't have any specific data to share yet. But what we can say is, so let's say that we're selling EV, we're selling solar and we sell an EV charger, right? Installation, which you have to have a permit to be able to install this level 2 charger at your house. So you need someone who's certified. Now, basically, what we're doing is we're using people's search behavior. I'm looking up, I want to buy, home backup power or maybe an EV charger on Amazon. But my client's not selling the charger, they're selling the installation. Right?
yeah,
So based off that search, now I can serve an Amazon Prime TV commercial to someone who's been searching for the specific product, or
right.
take it offline and do different audience matching for remarketing offsite. That they're thinking about, tired of the trickle charge, whatever it might be. So I think that there's just, you're right. It's becoming a source of truth and data that it really, I think, is more trusted than other places.
Well, it's that historical value of knowing what you get when you are, messing with the Amazon branch. Whether you bought something and enjoyed it, or you bought something and you wanted to return it, or you sort of liked it and left a review, a lot of people now really understand how that whole ecosystem works, even more so than they trust other locations. Now, there's something called Amazon Services, which if you are a service provider, you can register to. So if you were to, be an installer and sell the private label products that you created, if you sold the products, you would obviously generate a revenue stream. And for anybody who bought the products, they could use your installation services selected through Amazon at the time they purchase it. So you could become both the front end and the back end. So as you're in the marketing position or whatnot, even if it's not your product, as a service provider who does installs, you could basically install other people's products into the system.
Really interesting. I hadn't heard that. So, another question that I get asked a lot, and I'm gonna circle it back since you're the expert here. A lot of brands are always wondering what percentage of their spend should they be putting toward these like Cyber Mondays or these, Amazon special days. And what is your feeling on?
Well, we always spend 2 to 3 times what we would believe is gonna be the average of volume of sales that increases on Amazon or these online platforms, which is typically 3 to 5 times normal traffic, right? And in this period where we're at Wednesday, November 27th, leading into the holiday, this is the tire kicker season for the next 24 to 30 hours. After that, they become buyers during the Black Friday to Cyber Monday period. So what we always recommend is people don't touch their bids. They increase their budgets 2 to 3 times above. So if you've got ads and traffic that are running like on sponsor brands or ads, keep your bids right where they are, but double and triple your budgets. Okay. If you do that, Amazon will not mess with your bidding and screw it up, but they will increase the traffic flow and visibility by increasing the budget. Okay. If you mess with it, Amazon will mess with you. Right. So we make sure people don't touch those during that period of time. Now, as far as the deal goes, to create more of an irresistible offer, we do what was called a conversion bomb, which we will increase the value perceived of the product price point and then discount or value it backwards to at or just below where we ultimately want the retail price to be, giving that high perceived value during a Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale. So in that, we're goal oriented to take the next 30 to 45 days and create kind of what we call a slingshot method into the next year, into first quarter of next year. A lot of people are vying for just fourth quarter growth and going into the black. We're actually looking at it as a launching mechanism or a boosting mechanism of profitability and growth for the next year. So as we reposition and allocate funds and growth larger than our competitors to as much as we can see that data, our goal is to organically slingshot past them in the first quarter by creating that higher volume, higher value, situation within our area of focus in our niche, and basically outpace them in organic and kind of slingshot off the back of that. So we want to get our data sets higher and more value through this time period, not just for profitability of this period, but how we can grow that first quarter and second quarter of next year.
Yes, you see, you made a really interesting comment. So that you're kind of inflating the cost, and I think that's really smart, right? And then discounting for this perceived value. So can you? But you can. So you can change your pricing whenever you want in Amazon. There's no like guarantee. So there's no. That's
The other way around, right? Amazon forces through web checks and services to your Shopify or store to see if your minimum advertised pricing, your MAP pricing, is dramatically different. So you just got to shift the whole thing together to ensure their bots don't, jack you.
there. You go. Okay, I was gonna say
Right.
interesting.
You have a minimum advertised pricing usually for your products to make sure that they're the good priced product comparable within 5 to 7% difference.
And then what is your feeling on those who do have like a shop? So you have a Shopify site, you have Amazon site. What is the value of getting a customer? Because I mentioned email marketing a little bit before I write e-commerce, but you can't really once you get someone to buy an Amazon. Is there a way to be able to email market that customer through the FBA program? Or because that's a lot of when we talk with our clients, it's about where do we want to drive traffic, and usually it's not Amazon, depending on where we're advertising. It's usually where there are stores that we can capture that text message, opt-in or the email opt-in. Are there any ways to but what are your thoughts on that, and how do you do it yourself?
Well, we can capture roughly 40% of the customer data within the terms of service without messing with Amazon or the customer and experience. So that leaves about 60% we can't, gather, which we're actually fine with because we know we're leveraging their system, their client base, and that's just part of the process of demand capture. We also know that because it's trusted brand, 10, 20, 30% of TikTok shop sales or Shopify sales will end up back on Amazon. And we simply want to capture those no matter what. We want to capture the sale. The customer data ultimately is the highest value data and increases the multiples of the business. So in the instance, we're on TikTok shop and Shopify, we're obviously capturing that customer data, but we're also knowing that between 50 and 100K a month in spend, we're going to get up to that 25 to 30% back on Amazon, which is going to lift that and create what we call the halo effect, right? Which is a multi-tier, multi-platform lift because they're seeing us in all these different locations. They sort of choose based on the psychology of the buyer, which one they're most interested in buying on. So in the instance that is a demand capture platform, even from, ads on television that don't say go to Amazon, people are coming on to Amazon, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And in the demand creation stage of TikTok shop, being that it has organic and now search and the ability to do live streams and other things that create tremendous demand demand creation, that can flow back for those who simply don't trust the system and want to go to Amazon and buy it, which is going to be their next stop, right? They don't go to the website to look for that product. They search on Amazon for the brand name to see if they can find it.
Right.
Okay. And if you don't show up, here's what can happen. There was a guy in our group earlier who had a problem. Well, it was an opportunity, but it was a problem. He was going to stock out on Amazon, couldn't figure out what was going on because his product was flying off the shelves. He went from like 100 and something sales a day to 200, 300 sales a day. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to stock out. I wasn't prepared. And of course, he freaked out at first. He thought something was going wrong. He thought the ads were blowing up. Somebody got a coupon. Something was going like wrong.
Right.
Well, after all that, he couldn't figure out that any of those things were going wrong. And in the process of that diligence, he ran out of stock because it was happening so much faster. And this is pre-Black Friday.
Well,
Turns out a competitor went viral on TikTok. And when they couldn't find that competitor's data and information on Amazon, they bought his product instead. Right?
wow.
He got that halo effect backwards from a product that, wasn't even his on a video that wasn't his. So it just shows once again that this capture, you basically need all of these platforms. Okay.
Yes.
You need to capture that demand there. You need to drive that demand over there. I don't dislike Shopify, but I prefer platform marketplace traffic that has built-in buyer data, built-in buyer incentives, and built-in buyer mechanisms, which is what TikTok has on the creation side and Amazon has on the demand side. And just capturing those two right there is tremendous.
Well, and I think, I did some advertising, or Forbes actually did the advertising for my book on Amazon. And I was amazed by, how inexpensive it is, compared.
So it's relatively expensive. I use my book as a loss leader gin on there to get people interested in what we're doing at Voltage, which is great because they get the book, the physical copy, they can take a look. It's just, it's authority transferred to the truth of what we're saying in the book and relative to the way we do business. But it just creates that mechanism of trust and the ability for people to get it. And so, if in this world, and I've been saying this for years, you can go fact check me on all of my previous podcasts and everything else. You must have a holistic e-commerce brand. Number one, as a buyer, I will not look at companies that do not have that, or I will second, number two, look at where they started, opened up, or have not maximized additional channel revenue if that brand is a single channel brand only. I will usually exclude single channel brands if they have no product that will match up to the demographic or a psychology of buyer in different platforms. What I mean by that is it could sell really great on Amazon, but it's never going to go well on TikTok. It may be doing really well on TikTok, but it simply doesn't have a great place on Amazon from a profitability or an organic growth perspective because of the kind of product or profitability that it has. So what I'm looking for is those products that have opportunity in a single or multi-channel with profitability and meeting the psychology of the buyer for the different platforms in which those people will ultimately purchase from. And then we're looking to grow that intent and buy it out of there. Now, I'm buying on the future, so we're buying on the past. 12 trailing months. But I want to see that they have that ability to do that or acquire it because that increases the valuation of the company as well as the growth potential and upside potential of it.
Right. What is your feeling of, how AI will disrupt what you're doing and either make it better or worse?
Well, it hasn't disrupted it in a bad way. In fact, it's made it easier to get creatives done. It's made it
Mhm.
easier to, with the watching runway and other things happening in the last 6 months so fast from, really crappy videos to, wow, that's actually pretty impressive to, oh man, you can put your product literally on a model and run it through runway and stuff and certain tools now. And it comes out looking, pretty darn
Amazing.
real.
Yeah.
So this is just taking time to market for certain activities and lowering those, SOPs, those time to market SOPs, much more dramatically. For example, we don't necessarily need a full high resolution product shoot anymore. We can use AI with our existing product. We get the product, photo shoot done at a high res, and then we can put that product in all kinds of scenarios. And very soon, we're going to be able to put it in videos as well for hyper realistic. So that's cut that time down by as much as weeks down to days. We use AI to create copywriting and validate copywriting for split testing. We've even got a process in Voltage now by which we have split test 5 of our brands across 2 different tool sets. One that was producing keyword and rated copy, but wasn't doing the best in terms of the writing syntax and benefit driven statements. And we took that and went into GTP that we created, that we trained on all of our process and had it write the content and then do a virtual survey of the content as though it was a real audience and then tell us what the audience would choose as the primary listing copy, everything that it wanted to see, including the images. So we did that on 5 different brands with a bunch of different products, and we took it out to the survey market on PickFu in a couple places and asked them, which one would you choose? Guess what we found? Our GPT
Right.
was exactly on every time. In a virtual survey of individuals, it shows exactly what the actual individuals chose during those surveys. So now we use it as a way to basically validate the listing and the intent of the buyer for the images, etc., without actually having to take it to a real audience.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm what I'm looking for, or kind of hoping to start to be able to associate is, I think with digital and what we're doing and what I do, right? It's about really getting as niche as possible, right? You don't want to waste money on
Hyper
something
relevant.
hyper relevant, right?
All hyper relevancy.
But well, but the problem there though is this: if I'm and whenever I see it on any device, it's like, oh, do you want to see more ads like this? Do you want us to look and show you ads that you think that we think you want? And why it might be, you might feel like the answer is yes. What does that do for your ability to discover? Right? Because you're in a box, right? And you like the things in your box, but if you never see anything outside of your box, like how do you know that you might want to be in that box, right? And it's about different the purchase funnel, of course, and where you are, but it makes me think about I guess like that look-alike, how good is a look-alike audience? And are we leaving an opportunity to still be surprised? Kind of like while we watch the Super Bowl. Like we watch it and we're paying attention to it and we get introduced to things that we never would have seen before. Right. But is that
Yeah, it's not always about new discovery. I mean, it has a component to the product side, but here's what I know in the phrase "success is boring." When we get a brand that is successful, has 40 million searches on Amazon alone for that product and that product node, and I can put 12 of those product variations in front of somebody and generate 10 to 20 million in sales. Once that's sort of done, that success is sort of boring. It has a path. It has people that buy. It has people that rebuy. It has people that go on the subscribe and save and on the memberships. And it's like, hey, that's great. Let's go to the another brand. So let's create another brand within that brand or another avatar target within that brand because we already know it works. So then we move over here and we'll create another brand that targets a separate kind of avatar in the same instance, right? It may be one thing they use for kitchen, but can also be used for home and craft. So we crafted the brand that ties to that with a similar product because we already knew with 80% confidence this group wanted it. We knew that there was some crossover with this avatar that wanted a similar one. And so now they're discovering it and that product in a different way with a different use case. So you can take that and move that into any vertical, any home product, and millions of product opportunities that people want to know and get back. But remember, customers for the most part want to buy what they know. If they discover something and something trending, I'm usually cautious about what's trending until I see it move more evergreen. And that's typically if I see a brand or a second brand pulling it together. The price is raising, not going down, and I see an opportunity to become the third or the second brand in that, then we're going to slip into that because now we have a possible for evergreen, blue sky opportunity as opposed to a fidget spinner, one hit wonder kind of opportunity.
right?
Because discovered it and it blew up and that was great, and now they're 99 cents at the dollar store. I'm talking about, Instapot, which was a reinvention of the crock pot, right? Sort of different use case, but the same kind of output without the fires and the concern, but you still get the hot food. And now we have air fryers. So now we have the third iteration of that.
I love my air fryer. It is like
Who doesn't love an air fryer, right? I mean, they're
it's like
amazing.
where have you been all my life?
Well, it's a mini oven without all the heat and all the other stuff. And if you're a single person or two or three people, it's really easy to cook the kind of food. In our house, I had to buy the big Forno, 6 burner, Viking style stove for my wife because we cook everything all the time, and it's a lot of food for 6 people, and all plus their kids and our homeschool kids, and we have 20 people over, and they're making this huge feast. And Thanksgiving coming up soon, we're gonna have like 25 people in my house, so we're making this. Air fryer won't cut it in our house. We're gonna have the big old stove going. But you see how the brand, it can basically become a product line of hyper relevant with millions of people still discovering it every year. And so I don't want to kick the FOMO thing in too much with people because that's not the angle of the question, but the intent or outcome could be the idea that I'm missing out or someone's missing out if I'm not inventing or reinventing something. And I will tell you, success is boring for those larger brands that just really dial in that niche and just keep finding new ways to add additional value to that customer base. Like, Apple, right? Got the iWatch, the iPhone, the iMac, the iPad, then you get one for your wife and your kids, and all of a sudden you got 20 of these devices in your house. We prefer to go after and borrow that from retail. So we can just go down and stay hyper relevant in that niche and just provide more of additional products and different packaging along the way. And that really makes it easier in the longer run. It does actually.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely. I think some of the, how do you think, that would apply, or at what point can a company? So here, we have lots of little Hawaii brands, and I represent a couple food brands. At what point, when you have 10 SKUs, can you? Because what you're talking about here, I'm hearing the word investment, right? You have to create a new product line and maybe we have some cuts here because we now have AI. We don't have to. We can, we can use it to figure out bypass a lot of steps, right, and cost, but you still have to manufacture something, or are there shortcuts that for smaller brands to be able to take advantage of some of these tools? That's right.
Well, I mean, if you're going to get into the world of branding and physical products, it's kind of like the real estate. You've got to buy inventory, right? You've got to buy some capitalization. You might buy a house or a multi-tenant story or a 20, complex or a 200 unit complex, right? It's how long is a piece of string? So when it gets into physical product, yeah, there is a physical product. There's a process we follow to minimize risk before we can maximize reward. And that means that we will test 100 or 200 units of a new product that is manufactured for us in various locations from the United States to all over the world. And I'll test that product to find out the first answer to the question, can I sell that product? right? It answers the question, what the heck can I sell? But it also answers, can it, the equation comes down to, sales fixes everything. I'm trying to say that right. Sales fixes everything. So if I can sell 100 or 200 units of that and validate that in my account under my brand with my price point and that time in market, I can sell that 100 or 200 units in 90 days or less, or as quickly as I can watch it to grow, then I know that I can put 1,000 units in the market. I know that I can put additional marketing down. I know what my cost and opportunity costs are. And I know up to 12 months what the profitability run rate of that product is going to be over a 12-month period and how much rough capital I'm going to need to put into that physical manufacturing of that product and marketing in order to overtake the market share for an existing brand. As we look into it and say, well, there's 53, competitors with 40 million searches. Out of that, I want to get 1% of those searches for me. Then I know what my upside potential is and what the capitalization would look like out the back end.
Yeah.
For new sellers, we're shooting for 150,000 in profit in the first 12 months, minimum base case. Okay. That means that you are going to put in probably 50 to $100,000 because growth will come in year 2 and scale can come in year 3 and 4 when you do it correctly. So people don't, they take to think kind of short-sighted, but let me ask you a question. Do you remember what happened in the last 2 to 3 years? Do you remember everything and how fast it went or how slow it went for you? Because for
Yeah. I mean, what it's been lightning speed. I mean,
lightning, it happens to everybody. And yet when they look forward 2 to 3 years, it feels like an infinitesimal long time outstretching to infinity when in the last 2 and 3 years went extremely fast, right? This works the same way in business. So if you think about it, there's a 2 to 3 year run at this business. I'm going to capitalize for growth in year 1. Could it go a lot faster? Could one of those products of the 5 by 5 we launch 5 products looking at 25 units a day minimum take off and make more than all the other rest combined? Absolutely. I've seen it a bunch of times. But launching those products and determining their value in year 1 is my goal for growth in year 2, especially in maturity of systems, maturity in review. The AI systems and the engines are turning up on your products as you take over more market share, and then things can get really fast. You can move very quickly in year 2 when these brands mature extremely fast. Okay, we got plenty of case studies on my website. Daniel's one of getting to almost 15 million a year in 4 years. I got guys who've done 5 million a year in less than 12 months, 5 million a month in less than 12 months.
wow.
So it's a matter of understanding the speed at which this can move, the amount of people who are looking for these products in certain areas, and actually how quickly when you deploy capital to products that are working, how fast it can actually scale.
Yeah. It's very exciting. Congratulations. It's
A lot of fun. Yeah,
a
good for them.
lot of fun. I always say to my team, like, who has more fun than we do? And
It's been so much fun to watch them. We've got about 8 brands we're running right now, as I mentioned, and we're about to acquire three more if it goes as planned, which I'm hoping it does. They're great businesses. Um, and then we're going to roll them up into a big exit someday.
terrific.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being here today. And it's been so much a plethora of knowledge that we've learned
Fun.
from you. And if there's anything else you want to end with or mention before we close the pod.
No, I would just encourage everybody to remember that your opportunity begins at the end of your excuses. If you don't know, you don't understand, you invest in what you know or you invest in the knowing. If e-commerce is something you want to know about, hit me up, social media, web, voltagedm.com, whatever. If you just have questions, I'll help you out. There's no sales team. Just understand what we're doing at Voltage is real business building and growth. And if you might want to get involved, there's a process and an application to ensure integrity for both of us. But understand when they get involved, we're building businesses to exit. I'm specifically looking at those businesses I'm building with my clients to acquire them away from them in 3 to 5 years. That's my goal. That's what's in it for me. If any of that sounds of interest to you, then get involved in e-commerce. It's a lot of fun. I've been doing it. I mean, I'm going to do this for the next 10 years. It's the second oldest profession in the world.
Wow.
It is. The first one's prostitution, and I'm not
Not
getting it.
e-commerce. I mean, at this
Products, physical product selling.
selling.
Movement, bartering, and selling of products is timeless.
Actually, when I went to Ephesus in Turkey, I saw that first ad. You've been to Ephesus?
Yeah.
It's the
No, I haven't. No, huh?
Oh, well, it's in Turkey. It's like these discoverers, back in the 20s, they saw a Roman sculpture sticking out of the ground in Turkey, and so they started an excavation, and what they found was one of the largest, completely intact Roman city in Turkey, Ephesus. They had libraries. I mean, all this
Buried under the ground.
it's and it's one of the oldest ads. And I actually have a postcard, and it was a little foot, and that foot represented a whorehouse that was around the. Because you're right, it is one of the oldest professions, and it,
Well, I guess they digitalized. Okay, so technically they digitalized it too with OnlyFans. So
true, true, yes.
okay, so there's your two. E-commerce and digital transfer of things has
That's
just become a new mechanism for very old professions.
right. Well, thanks so much for being here. I'm sure that everyone can also check out his book, Almost Automated Income, with FBA, co-authored by Reed Larson. Thanks so much for being here. Please join me next week as I interview another industry expert and a topic to help you succeed on and offline. Aloha. I'll see you in the pixels.